welcome to our agenda briefing for the March 25 meeting. This evening, our agenda briefing on the 18th of March. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet this evening and pay my respects to elders past and present. The recommendations contained in the agenda that we are presented are officers' recommendations only and should not be acted upon until Council has resolved to adopt those recommendations. The resolutions of Council should be confirmed by perusing the minutes of the Council meeting at which these recommendations were considered. Members of the public should also note that they act at their own risk if they do enact any resolution prior to receiving official written notification of Council's decision. And as there are no participants in our gallery this evening, I will not read our policy regarding public participation. This evening is an agenda briefing session for the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. Questions will be asked, no debate will be put forward and no opinion will be put forward. It is simply an opportunity for elected members to seek further information on the items due to be presented at next week's ordinary council meeting. Our record of attendance tonight has the Deputy Mayor here. To my right, Councillor Bodica, Councillor Winner, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Turner, Councillor Viskovich. We have apologies from Councillor Johnson and also Councillor Brownlee. We have the CEO who is present this evening in Andrew Bryan. We have our Director of Development and Growth in Alex Weiss, our Director of Community Development in Mia Hicks, our Director of Corporate and Commercial in Glenda Abraham, and our Director of Engineering in Louis Camprelli. And we are joined this evening by our Executive Manager of Governance and Risk Services, Francis Liston, Governance Officer Evelyn Addison, our IT Technical Systems Analyst Lava Kush, and our IT Service Delivery Officer Sashi this evening as well. We don't have any visitors and we have no press. There is the apologies as marked. Councillors, if you do have a leave of absence for next week, Councillor Turner, thank you. We'll note that for next week's meeting. Councillors, any notations of interest for next week's meeting? None from Council, one from myself. It'll be a financial risk in item 15.16, the expressions of interest for the independent member for the audit and risk, noting a financial interest as the applicant appeared in election campaign material. We move forward to the item for next week, the items for next week. We start off with the reports of committee, and this is an opportunity to hear from the officers directly. Mr CEO, the first particular item is from Audit and Risk Committee minutes from the 16th of November 2023, and we have yourself and Francis Liston listed as responsible officers. Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the Audit and Risk Committee minutes from November are ones that just need to come back through for adoption. The actions that are outlined in those have already been carried out. Specifically the adoption of the annual financial statements, which was completed. It was just these minutes have not been referred to Council previously.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, any questions? Thank you. I'll take that for 14.11. 14.12, terms of reference. Mr CEO?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. 14.11, 14.12 and 14.13 are the November meeting, so the same issues, everything's been actioned within those three reports.
Sure, thank you. Any questions on, we'll take those three items, Mr CEO, by the way. No questions, councillors. Thank you. Item 14.2. 14.21 are the Audit and Risk Committee minutes. Councillors, I'll take all of those items as per the previous, as they were all from one meeting. Mr CEO, if you wanted to give an overview of each of those particular items and if any of the councillors wanted to pull one out from those minutes to discuss further.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Probably the highlights I'll go through in relation to overdue debtors. We've introduced a new report showing the status of debtors of 31 January 2024. It does show debts greater than 90 days and debts more than $10,000 in total. So whilst the number of debts has increased from 11 to 21 debtors since June, the team is actively pursuing all of those. It also shows the number of days in which debtors take to pay their debts. So it is a new report. It's the first time that one's been through to the committee. Also considered at the meeting was the purchasing policy exemptions. Again, a new report to outline the exemptions that have been used by staff outside the normal procurement process. So each of those was identified on a month-by-month basis and will continue to be provided to Council as we move forward. So it looks at each of the exemption categories and the amounts against each of those. 14.2.8 is probably the next one with the highlight in, which is the tenders awarded under CEO delegation. Financial year to date, there's only been 2. One of those related to wastewater treatment, and the other one was for a road intersection upgrade. 14.2.9 is the audit recommendation progress report. Just outlines the status of the OAG audit recommendations from previous years. And that's probably a summary of all the audit reports.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, any questions on the risk and audit minutes that are presented in those items, which are 14.2.1 through to 14.2.9? No questions on all of those? Thank you. 14.3, Youth Council minutes. Director of Community Development.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder Youth Council are required to formally elect the positions of Youth Mayor and Deputy Youth Mayor for a 1-year term. This report details the process that the Youth Council conducted with the assistance of Council Winner to complete the election process for the 2 positions. The City's new Youth Mayor, Emily Stewart, and Deputy Youth Mayor, Aaron Winchester, are to be elected for the 2022-24 year term, and they, including all Youth Council, will be acknowledged at next Monday's Council meeting. The City would like to formally thank Braden Donnell for his work as the Deputy Youth Mayor and then Acting Youth Mayor for the 2022-23 year term.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, just further to that, the item will be brought forward in your agenda next week. Just a point of clarification, under item 10, to conduct that presentation, noting that the actual item for the agenda is to note the committee recommendation that is being provided to you. So therefore we will be conducting the presentation under item 10, in which we will also seek to suspend standing orders for that to take place next week. Any questions, councillors? None, thank you. Item 15, reports of officers. Mr CEO, there are some finance officers' reports here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 15.1.1 is the accounts payable for February. Expenditure in February was 9.3 million, pretty much in line with previous months. Nothing of specific note to report out of the ordinary against that report.
Thank you. Any questions on the accounts payables, councillors? None. Thank you, Mr CEO. The SOFA 15.1.2, Statement of Financial Activity.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Very few variances to report, and the mid-year budget's just been entered into the system, so for most things are on track there. The reserve variances are primarily due to reserve transfers being adjusted, specifically around delays in the golf course resort, and due to funds being tied into term deposits. The physical cash transfers will occur in June this year.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any questions, councillors? None taken. 15.1.3 is the Code of Conduct for Council Members, Committees and Candidates. There is no changes, I believe, Mr CEO, to the actual handbook. Is that correct?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, that is correct. Following the elections, officers have undertaken a review of the Code of Conduct, assess that against the model code. There's no changes or no amendments recommended to it.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any questions, councillors? None on 15.1.3. 15.1.4, the election report for the 2023 local government election. Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Following each local government elections, the West Australian Electoral Commission releases a report into the performance of the elections. A copy of the report is simply provided for information of councillors. There's no need to adopt it. We just think it's good practice to put it forward to council for information.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, no questions. Councillor Turner.
I suppose just a point of clarification that report was actually compiled by the WA Electoral Commission and not by council. If we could make that, probably we need to make that clear. That's correct. Is that correct, Mr CEO, through the Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor, that is correct. So it's a report by the WA Electoral Commission, and it is a report that's provided following every election by them.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Thank you, Councillor Turner. No further questions, councillors. 15.1.5, Australian Local Government Association Congress motion. Sounds very USA. Mr CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors will recall that a report was provided to Council previously in relation to the National Congress. Having gone through and looked at all the areas identified for consideration at the National Congress, we've identified one particular focus area that we think is relevant to where Council is at the moment, and that is around trying to get the federal government to allocate more money directly to local government to implement localised strategies for closing the gap initiatives as outlined in the National Agreement on Closing the Gap. So we thought it was an opportune time to put something forward to ensure that local governments can receive direct funding, and rather than tying it to a specific program outcome, to enable local governments to identify local area initiatives that could be funded.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Any questions, councillors? Thank you. Item 15.15. 15.16, EOI for the Independent Member of Audit and Risk Committee, noting that I do have a financial interest in this matter for next week.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This report has been prepared following the advertising of expressions of interest for the independent member. We have a recommendation there for the appointment. Happy to take any questions, noting that the Mayor has disclosed a financial interest, so if there are any specific questions in relation to the candidate, we'd need to do that behind closed doors, and I can take those offline or deal with them next week at the meeting.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, any questions to consider? Thank you. Item 15.2 is Development and Growth. Item 15.2.1 from Planning, Development and Regulatory Services. Director Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to consider adding an additional use to a reserve adjacent to Full Circle's lot on the corner of Ward and Mackenzie Street. The reserve is currently cleared, and so the additional use added is a car park. The intent of adding the additional use car park is to allow Council at a future date to potentially consider a sublease to Full Circle to allow them to develop that lot as car parking.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any questions for 15.2.1? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through to the Mayor, to the Director, is there any perceived additional cost that will be associated with the need to maintain this area for parking moving forwards, or is that expected to be incurred by the applicant?
Thank you, Councillor. It's intended that any costs to develop and maintain the lot will be passed on, and the responsibility of the applicant under a lease.
Thank you, councillors. Any further questions? Councillor Turner.
Just once again through the Mayor to the Director, what is it getting used at the moment? Is it vacant land, or are they using it for unofficial parking? So what they're doing is basically doing it so that we're ticking all our boxes and getting it official, and probably, I suppose, upgrading the area and making it safer and better use.
Thank you, councillor. Director.
Thank you, Councillor. So the land has been used informally for parking for quite some time, both by the previous medical centre and Full Circle, the toy library and other facilities that have pre-existed in the area over time.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any further questions? Thank you. Item 15.2.2, hireable e-scooter trial outcome. Director of Development and Growth.
Thank you, Mayor. This report presents the outcome of the community survey at the end of the 12-month trial of the city's e-scooter hireable program to both Bird and Beam. The survey makes it clear that Bird has withdrawn from Australia and is no longer seeking to extend or renew a permit within the city. However, Beam has expressed an interest in continuing. The survey results show that it's one of the highest response rates the city has had to a survey previously provided to the community, with ultimately one vote splitting the decision from the community in favour of a no vote. So 1,209 submissions with the results split by one vote in the favour of no. Given it's such a close result, the officer's recommendation is that council consider issuing a further 12-month permit with then a further survey undertaken and a further report to council after 12 months.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to clarify the answers that have been provided. Over 55% of these survey completers have never actually ridden a scooter. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And by the vast bulk of them, well, 98% of the survey respondents too were from Kalgoorlie-Boulder, noting that only 35% had ridden scooters. So there is a significant number of people that have used the scooters over the course of the period who have not responded to the survey.
Thank you. No other further questions. Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And have we received any response from our meeting with the e-scooters on any of the questions that we've asked them?
They'll be submitting those responses mid next week, which will then be passed along to Council as additional information. As outlined in the report, at the kind of bottom of the officer's comment section, they are working on a number of initiatives to proactively address, I guess, issues that have arisen both during the trial period, and they expect to potentially continue should they be granted a further permit. Any
other further questions? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director as well, just extending on Councillor Viskovich's questioning. Item 1 of the Officer's recommendation is subject to conditions. Within those conditions, is there capacity to explore alternative parking of scooters when not in use? I know one of the biggest challenges reported by respondents to the survey were the paths being blocked. So is there capacity to work with BEAM on potentially looking at other options in that area?
Thank you, Councillor. Again, one of the key items that will be reviewed is the location of the parking, the landing pads, as they call them, for the e-scooters, and the potential to further improve approved landing pads with infrastructure to help prevent the tipping of scooters. So yes, that is something that is intended to be looked at should Council support a further extension, and is something that Council could condition through the permit quite strongly should it choose to do so.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Turner.
Just through the Mayor to the Director as well, I note the financial contribution that the proponent has offered to make to the city. Is there any avenue for that to be negotiated still further, given we've got an item later on discussing footpaths, and I am a little bit sceptical about if there's any damage getting caused to our footpaths on this. I'm not an expert, so I don't know. But is there an avenue for some further funds to be paid, or is that it? That's what they're offering us, and pretty much that's what we get, and it's subject to how many rides they use with the model that they've offered.
Director.
Thank you, Councillor. The area that probably Council has discretion on is the actual fee or permit fee that it charges, not necessarily a profit-sharing model. Certainly that can be negotiated and is an area for negotiation. They have indicated that that's their, final position on revenue sharing, but certainly Council can, ask for a rediscussion, or it could choose to increase the permit fee. Advise the BEAM that the permit fee is the permit fee, and they can choose to accept it or not accept it.
Thank you. No other further questions on 15.2.2. 15.2.3, Local Emergency Management Committee. Back to you, Director of Development and Growth.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to receive the minutes from the last emergency management meeting, and also sets out the governance arrangements that are proposed for the Local Emergency Management Committee going forward. Of particular note is that we are recommending that the committee is established as an external committee and not a committee of Council.
Thank you, Director. No further questions on that, councillors? Thank you. Item 15.2.4, response to motion, workforce accommodation. Director of Development and Growth again.
Thank you, Mayor. This report responds to a motion of notice put forward by Councillor Turner. It contains the number of approved development applications, the number of lodged development applications, the number of constructed dwellings, and the number of inquiries the city has received for workforce accommodation over a period of time.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Turner?
Just through the Mayor, firstly I'd like to thank the city officers for getting this back promptly as was requested. There were some interesting figures in there that I'm sure will be of interest to people, and also I note that there was some additional information provided there of some other accommodation being into some converted caravan parks, which I now believe have got approval for any works they've done. So I'd like to just thank the city officers for the work that they have done in getting this all together. And
Is there a question,
yeah,
councillor?
there is a question. This is only what we've got for another period of time. Is it too hard, or would it be possible to put a further motion up later on existing accommodation levels, or is that something we could possibly ask the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Tourist Centre to give us some information on that?
Thank you, councillor. If we're trying to put together a comprehensive list of the number of approved developments and beds within the city, I think that would be quite challenging, because a number of the developments are quite old, and we would be having to kind of, I guess, search through and pull files out of record storage. I think probably the easiest way forward, should council wish to see that information, might be to voluntarily ask for it from accommodation providers.
Thank you, Director. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question relates to the Table 1, 45 Bates Drive and 1 Trasimeno Way. Status, Joint Development Action Panel application submitted. However, the application has been placed on hold till 30th of June 24 at the request of the applicant. Are we able to know, is there reason, or are they getting cold feet with BHP?
Director.
Thank you, councillors. That's just a result of the announcement made by BHP and the fact that they're undertaking a review. So they've placed that application on hold while they complete the review.
Thank you. Other further questions, councillors? 1525, renewal of lease 09287757 over lot 441 Kitchener Road. Director Weiss again.
Thank you, Mayor. The city has been notified by the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage that a lease at Kitchener Road has expired and is currently in a holding over period. I have formally asked the city for its position on the renewal of the lease. Council's asked to consider its position, and the officers are recommending that renewal of the lease is not supported. The city has been communicating with the leaseholder over an extended period of time, and it's considered that the property in general is not compliant with a range of regulatory requirements, and we think it's, I guess, a better outcome for the community and for the city if the lease is not renewed. Council is also asked to consider registering an interest in the land should the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage make a decision to not renew the lease. It should be noted that Council's only been asked to lodge its position. A decision on the renewal of the lease is a decision for the state and the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any questions over this item? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director, has the applicant of the actual site, or the user of the site, expressed an interest to renew the lease, or what sort of contact were we had in regards to that?
Thank you, Councillor. It's our understanding that the applicant's position is they would like to renew the lease.
Thank you, Councillor Turner.
Just through the Mayor to the Director, looking at the photos that have been supplied, is there anyone actually living there or occupying the premises that we know of?
Director.
Yes, it appears that the site is being occupied.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell.
Do we know how much this lease is they pay?
Director.
No, we've not made any inquiries, nor has that been disclosed to the city.
Thank you. Any other further questions, councillors? Thank you, Director. Item 15.3.1, Club Night Lights Program Application under Community Development, Usher Park Lights Upgrade, Director of Community Development, Mayor Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is for council to endorse one grant application to the DLGSI's Club Night Lights program for the February Small Grants Round. A lighting audit was conducted on the city's parks, sport fields, and reserve lighting and completed in February. They inspected 12 sites in total, and the audit identified that Usher Park's east and west sporting fields the lighting poles, are in the most immediate need of replacement. So this grant will assist with that. The total estimated project cost is $412,000, if the funding was successful, would cover approximately $200,000. The grant closes on the 28th of March. It requires council resolution or endorsement, as part of the application.
Thank you, Director. Noting that Councillor Bodica left the room during that discussion. Councillors, any questions? Councillor O'Donnell.
Do we know which sports use or want to use Usher Park at night?
Director.
Yes, soccer is played quite extensively there at night. And I might just, if that's okay with you, Mayor Wilson, defer to the Director of Engineering.
You can. Thank you. Director.
Yeah, soccer's played 12 months of the year out there. So for the winter season, they use it for training, and for the summer season, they use it for player development, junior development, so for the whole year.
Thank you. Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the Mayor to the Director as well. Just knowing that I don't want to see community members potentially misinterpret the direction of the lights program. This application does not mean the city is not looking at all the ovals and we don't have that clear lighting plan in place to do a renewal process, does it?
Thank you. Director. Director of Engineering to take this one.
No, we're currently prioritising, we're also looking at Oasis currently, and then next year's budget, we're looking at a number of other ovals that will fit within the budget.
Thank you, Director. Any further questions? Councillor O'Donnell.
I refer to Digger, just when you mentioned other ovals, I just refer to Digger Doors Oval. Is that on the radar yet?
Not part of the item to discuss. However, we'll take that, Director, just to note that.
Yep, Digger Doors, Sir Richard Moore, Oasis, along with Usher Park, were the priorities.
Thank you. No other further questions, councillors? Noting Councillor Bodica is returned. Item 15.3.2, Child Safe Awareness Policy. Director of Community Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is for council to review and endorse the Child Safe Awareness Policy. In 2017, the final report of the Royal Commission into Institutionalised Responses to Child Sexual Abuse made 409 recommendations aimed at preventing abuse and providing support to survivors. The national principles for child safe organisations were developed and build on the 10 child safe standards proposed by the Royal Commission. The proposed policy for the city is the first step in creating a child-safe culture aligned with the Child Safe Awareness Policy template for local governments as recommended by the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries. The requirement for a policy and relevant sporting management guidelines is also becoming increasingly important with local government funding arrangements with federal governments and services provided to children and young people.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any questions regarding that of the policy? One from me, Director Hicks. Is there any requirement for working with children's checks for any of the key leadership staff for the city or councillors?
So working with children's checks are based on your interaction with children. So that would form part of the management guidelines in terms of the Youth Council and also a number of our programs that we run as well. So as an example, Mayor Wilson, the Job Hub staff all must have working with children certificates.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Thank you, Director. Director of Engineering, 4, 1541, Kalgoorlie CBD, Boulder CBD footpath program.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council's asked to endorse a prioritised footpath reprioritisation for the Kalgoorlie and Boulder CBDs. On the 18th of December, the CEO was asked to go through and put another report up and reprioritise our footpath program, and that has been attached. Now, city staff and our asset management team has investigated the program and looked at what we currently have, our exposed aggregate concrete, pavers, and have looked at a third type of paver, and it's a high reinforced concrete painted with a cement resurfacer. And they've put up a request to go. Sorry, they've put up a request to reprioritise and go for the third, which is the high reinforced concrete painted with a cement resurfacing.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Turner.
I just threw the Mayor to the Director. So the third option that we've come up with, which I know you've showed us some examples of it, and it looked quite good. Just a question: was this this spray that they use, was this similar to what they use at high-use train stations? I think.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Regarding footpath condition statistics, I see 85% need some form of work of our footpaths, and 15% are excellent condition. What's the general lifespan of a footpath when they first do the concrete? Are we expected that we can get 5 years out of that, 10 years, 1 year?
Concrete should be 20 years.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Donnell.
Wow, 20 years and we've only got 15% in excellent condition. Do we get a warranty or some sort on the when they're installing?
Most of our CBD are pavers, so they're paving bricks and not concrete. Our only current parts that are concrete are Hannon Street between Maritana and Wilson.
Clear for you, Councillor O'Donnell. Thank you. Any other further questions, councillors? No, thank you. Item 1542, Climate Change Declaration. Director.
Council's asked to consider an adoption of the Climate Change Declaration that's attached as supported by Wolga and GV Rock, or Goldfields Voluntary Regional Organisation of Councils, to demonstrate the city's commitment to combating and adapting to the effects of climate change within the Goldfields region.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, any questions? None taken. Thank you. 1543, Proposed Partial Road Closure, Davyhurst-Orabanda Road. Director.
Council's asked to note the public comments received during the advertising period, of which we had 32 against the partial road closure of the Davyhurst-Orabanda Road.
Thank you. Questions, please, councillors? Any? Councillor Winner.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through the Mayor, item 4 of the officer's recommendation in relation to the granting of temporary permits for the temporary closed portion of Orabanda Road. What is the length of time someone can actually have a permit granted for?
Director.
Our current permit system allows 3 months, but after meeting with the Amalgamated Prospectors and Leaseholders Association, we're looking to push that out to 12 months for this road.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. You've got the 32 responses and they're worried about access in various ways. My understanding was there wouldn't be restricted access on that road, but they still had to get permission from the council. Were those 32 complaints all able to be satisfied, those people able to satisfied that it's going to be okay?
We haven't reached out to anyone. We've spoken with APLA, which covers all the leaseholders and the prospectors. They were a lot more satisfied after we met with them, and we looked at extending the length of how long they'd need their permit for.
Thank you. Councillor Bodica.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, through the Mayor. 32 people that put objections into it does seem pretty high. Is that generally sort of what we'd be expecting for people that would be putting objections in about something like this? Or is it higher than what we usually get to close the road?
Good question. I don't think it's high. I think for the amount of road use, I think it's probably low.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Any other further questions, councillors? Thank you. That is item 15.4.3. Councillors, we do have two confidential items, 17.11 and 17.21. One of those is regarding 101 Brookman Street EOI, and the other one is regarding a agreement. Councillors, are there any questions on those? If there are, we will take those offline after the meeting. There are questions on those? No worries. We'll close off the meeting this evening at 7:36 p.m, noting that the ordinary council meeting is on the 22nd of, sorry, the ordinary council meeting is on the 25th of March. We will take those questions regarding the confidential one offline, and thank those who have been tuned in this evening to our agenda briefing for their viewership. Thank you.